Welcome to the show, Russell Pearson. It's great to be chatting with you today.
Absolutely. It's fantastic to see you.
And today we're going to be chatting about energy and momentum in business. Really important topic. So, if you can begin by unpacking that a little bit, and I also want to hear more about your story, how you got started in business
Yeah.
and your background.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because the topic of energy and momentum is definitely one that sort of fits in with my ongoing story. So I what was I? It's probably about 5 years ago. I find myself staring at the ceiling, 1 a.m., thinking to myself, how did I get here? And I can hear in the background a little girl who's like screaming for her mother. And it was weird because it was not my little girl. I've got three little girls, and it wasn't one of them. The voice was different. And I sort of came to a little bit and realized that no, actually, that was a 90-year-old woman. And she was screaming and crying for her mother because she was confused and in pain and in hospital where I was. And I'm lying there at 1 a.m. staring at the ceiling, not really thinking about how I got to the hospital because that was pretty
Mm.
straightforward. I'd come in 7 days earlier. They said, "No, you're young and fit and fine. Go home." And then 7 days later, I come in a critical condition. But it was more around thinking to myself, I'm going to be that 90-year-old woman. Fingers crossed, I'll get to that age, and I'll probably be in that confused state. And if I was to get there from now with what I'd achieved, would I be happy? And the answer was no, because everyone else was telling me how successful I was,
Mhm.
but I didn't feel successful. And so that sort of started a journey. And it sort of started me also thinking, like, how did I begin? Because I'm back at 25. When I was back at 25 years old, I had a drive to do something because I felt I hadn't done anything with my life. And so, like, I grab onto the thing that's nearest to me, and it's the Australian dream, which is, very much like the American dream. And within 2 years, I'd married my high school sweetheart. We had our baby on the way. We had bought our first house, and I'd started my business. All right, so I'd acted on it, and
Mm.
then for the next 10 years, I chased that Australian dream,
Mhm.
and was pretty good at it. We're an award-winning business, had 10
Yeah.
staff, had plenty of clients, good turnover, and then lying in that hospital bed at 1 a.m. just realizing that I'd
Mm.
I'd done all this for someone else's version of success,
Yeah.
and I hadn't really considered like what it would be like when I climbed to the top of that ladder.
Mm. Mm.
And so the steps from there were pretty tricky, but they're more around like taking a mask off my face, this sort of mask of appropriate and professional and
Yeah.
what other people decided it should have been, and actually getting a chance to be more me.
Mhm.
And when I did that, I had the opportunity to realize that I had been giving energy for the last 10, 12 years and not really getting much back in return because I wasn't aligned with the things that I love. I wasn't aligned with the things I want to change in the world. I was just, again, chasing this, you know, version of success, which was someone else's dream.
Right. Interesting. So when you say you weren't aligned, do you mean that it was like a values misalignment, or hadn't you really thought about your why or your purpose? What do you mean by you didn't feel aligned?
Well, my why and purpose I'd sort of taken from someone else, whoever had
Ah,
invented the Australian dream in
right.
the first place. I've gone, oh, well,
Yeah.
that seems like a good why. And the family system and supporting the family and being a successful business person,
Yeah.
that all seems like a good why. And I'll change the world by building the greatest marketing company and being the dirty little secret behind my client's success, and that seems like a good why.
Yeah. And if I work really hard, then I'll be successful. That's what a lot of us are
Yeah,
conditioned with from
grind.
being very early age by our parents who, of course, worked super hard.
That's it. And the idea of no, you get a lot of people even now saying like you've got to rise and grind, rise and grind. And the difference now, when I'm now doing work that I love, working with people that I love in a business I've created that is
Mm.
really the dream, because I love it. I love
Yeah.
getting out of bed for it. It means that I'm now working with people who energize me. So my idea is I love working with passionate yet frustrated business owners, because I was one, right? I was
Mhm.
the passionate yet frustrated business owner, and I get to work with these people and unlock that passion that I know that they've got in there, and that drives me now. And that's the
Yeah.
thing that gives me the energy now. So me giving them energy gives me energy, and there's this great engine that I've created.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're in flow and your clients are in flow, and it is a wonderful feeling. And I'm in a similar situation in my business now, that I get to choose who I work with, and it's a
Yeah,
whole different game when you are really selecting the clients that you want to work with. You know that they're a fit, you know you're going to get great results, and you feel okay about saying no to the rest. And it really does energize, like you say. So when
yeah.
you talk about putting your energy, giving out the energy and not getting it back, were you sending out your energy to the wrong places, or were you?
I just didn't align it to the probably the right type of clients.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah. It's funny. Most people I speak to who are successful by everyone else's measure, they don't need more clients. What they
Hmm.
need is maybe some better clients, some clients
Yeah.
that actually suit them more. They don't need to be busier. They need
Mm.
to the clients that are easy to work with, that pay on time and appreciate what they do for them. And uh,
Yeah.
and and that's that's the fun that I get to do these days. So
Mm. So let's chat about, how do you find the best clients? How do you find these clients who are wonderful to work with, you're really aligned with, and you get that energy from? Because when we all start, we tend to have this vanilla copy on our website
yeah,
that just attracts everybody, and you spend a lot of time filtering and saying no, or taking on clients that are not ideal. So finding your best client, how do we do that from a marketing perspective?
yeah, absolutely. So and it might sound a little bit simplistic, but you create a couple of lists, and the lists are, what do I love? And I'm not talking about in a client. I'm just talking about, what do I love in this world? What are the
Mm.
things that I enjoy and bring me joy? Like for me, yes, of course, it's my children, and they're awesome, and I bring them into my work now. But I love blacksmithing.
Hmm.
That's a thing I enjoy. I love heating up metal to a critical state and moving it and shaping it. I love uh, certain types of food. I love chocolate ice cream.
Hmm.
I like raspberries, and I bring that now into my communication, into things about me and my analogies in my own business. And
Yeah.
so, what are the things that you love? And there's no reason why you can't combine those two worlds.
Yeah,
Uh, because
absolutely.
we're not,
That's your, as my business coach says, that's your essence.
yeah.
That's the
And I've got a
uniqueness
funny
of
old one.
you.
There's a funny like I guess it's an analogy for it, which is um, in Melbourne, Australia. For some reason, the blueberries, every second punnet, they're like sour, and I like berries. That's one of my things. And so I'd be sick of like throwing out these sour punnets
Mm.
of blueberries. And then one day I decided, like, forget this, I'm going to muck around and experiment a bit. And I took one of the blueberries and I put it inside a raspberry.
Hmm.
Genius experimentation, right? And if you try that, and I suggest you should, it tastes completely different. It's a whole new flavor. And I'm going to call it a raspberry, and I'm like, how am I going to like copyright this? And I actually went and looked online, and they actually exist already, right? So you can get these
Ah,
things.
yeah.
But what's interesting about them as an analogy or a
Mm.
metaphor, or however you want to go, you probably know better than me. But you're sometimes the service you provide, like maybe you're an accountant and people have to do their tax. Maybe you're
Yeah.
a doctor and people have to go and see the doctor. Maybe you're a
Mm.
lawyer and they have to use legal services in an unpleasant way. So sometimes the service you provide is a little bit sour.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you, as the yummy raspberry, the personality, the
Mm.
true brand, the essence of you as a business, can actually wrap around that service and not try and be the vanilla
Mm.
appropriate and same as everyone else, but actually decide to be different.
Yeah, and it's that wraparound. That's where the uniqueness comes, because if you use the tax example, a tax return is a tax return is a tax return, and the
Yeah.
legislation around tax is the same. But how do you create that experience for your customer? And only you can do that in
And
a
funnily
in a
enough, it's not
service. And yeah.
that hard. Like it's as easy as being open, like
Mm,
being willing to communicate the things that you love or the things that are quirky about you, the things that are unusual that
yeah.
make you different, that a lot of people sometimes hide away because they think they'll be judged for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that when you start out in business, you don't want to. Yeah, I had a big blockage about that. You probably know that I'm significantly hearing impaired, Russell. And
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
when I first started my journey, which was the whole reason why I ended up where I am today, because I had to leave my clinical career. You know, a lot of people would ask me, well, how did I get from being a midwife to being a professional speaker and public speaking coach? And I would kind of say, oh, well, I sort of, enjoyed speaking. It was like a wishy-washy response. And
Yeah.
people would say, but it's, two worlds apart. And I felt, I don't know whether it was shame or embarrassment. I felt as though I couldn't share that, because the story that I was telling myself was, if I made that public, then other people would think to themselves, well, we're hardly going to engage her to be our public speaking coach. What does she know? She's deaf. Straight away. That
Absolutely.
wasn't my story. It wasn't their story. It was my story. And as soon as I got rid of that, now I attract people who are interested in health, or have a health background, or have gone
Hmm.
through some kind of adversity, or have reinvented themselves later in life, as I had to. And it is that uniqueness that when you are a coach, a consultant, an entrepreneur, anyone in business, really, there are so many people to choose from, but it's your uniqueness, your special sauce, your browsby, whatever you've wrapped around the outside of your blueberry.
Yeah.
That is the special thing.
Absolutely. And the word you use is attract, because once
Yeah.
you start talking about the things that you love, and also, so there's the things that you love, and this is often a controversial one, the things that you hate, the things that really get stuck on your craw, the things that potentially can be the mission for the thing you're
Oh,
trying to change
yeah.
in the world. And then finally, that you are human and that there are things that challenge you in the world. If you talk about these three things, you attract
Mm,
people who appreciate that. And once you start
right.
attracting people who appreciate that, you're starting to work with someone who appreciates you. And that's the
Mm,
gold.
yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
awesome.
there's uh, basically in businesses don't tend to go out of business because of some financial hiccup or because government regulations, even, in recent environments. It's
Yeah.
usually because the business owner, the managing director, the founder simply ran out of
Mm,
energy. And
yeah.
so making sure that that driver in the business has the energy just to
Mm,
take a step forward. Like yes, you can feel flat, but if you can take another step forward and then a step after that, it means you can actually start to move. And it's
yeah.
that movement that's actually going to allow you to maybe get up and run and get that momentum back in your business. And that's the thing that's really going to get you where you need to be. It's getting that momentum back in your business from just those tiny yet powerful steps, one at a time.
Yeah.
And it's the energy that drives it.
Yeah. So in terms of keeping that energy and momentum going in the right direction, what's the role of a mentor and or a coach, and what do you see the difference being in business?
Well, a mentor. So you got the two differences, I guess, between mentor and coach. The mentor has been there before. The coach is actually looking at your current performance and helping you, identify ways to improve. The the mentor has seen the future in a
Mm,
sense. They've been
mm,
there before. They know the path, so they can. So if you're on the right path, then it's their obligation to celebrate that and to
yeah.
make sure you see that, even though you
Yeah.
can't see 2 feet in front of your in front of your face.
Yeah.
Right, you're in a fog.
Yeah.
The coach, again, on the flip side, helps you celebrate those little wins
Mm,
and helps you also reduce the size of the goals that you're trying to go for, because
mm,
there's so many people who, using smart goals in particular, that's one of my pet peeves, but
yeah.
is they create these smart goals which are like time based, and like
Mm,
within 3 months we'll have achieved A, B, and C, and if they don't hit it, the momentum
yeah.
stops. The
Yeah.
if they get distracted along the way, it's demoralizing because they didn't hit their goal. But if they can set these tiny yet powerful
Yeah.
steps every single week, just tiny little goals, then they
Yep.
get to win every 7 days.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I think that's one of the certainly one of the tasks of a mentor or a coach, to help those people along the way.
Definitely. And so whether that momentum is forming good daily habits, or whether
Yeah.
it's daily journaling or journaling,
Hmm.
or even just setting that intention. Yeah, I don't like SMART goals either. They're either too small, they keep you small, or if they're not achievable, they often set you up to
And so I
fail,
have it like
I
I
reckon.
prefer like intention. Like, what is the intention
Yeah.
for the month, the quarter, the year, and then these small steps to actually continue to move you toward that. Because a lot of the like just about everything, if you can form good practices,
Yeah.
then then you improve. So whether
Yeah.
that be the habits that you're just describing, whether that's challenging yourself to do something over a certain period of time and just doing it in small increments,
Yeah.
podcasting, for instance, you get better, and as you improve, you enjoy it more, and as
Mm.
you enjoy it more, you attract more people
Yeah.
to what you just created. So
Yeah, that's a really good example. So we chatted about finding the right clients, which is really important, and it certainly does give you that amazing energy and momentum to move forward. What about finding the right people to be on the team, particularly
mm,
for solo business owners or small business owners who are ready to outsource? And I know personally, I've made some big costly mistakes
yeah,
with bringing people in, and it's just caused extra work. It's caused all sorts of issues. So, how do you then use that uniqueness and attract and find the right people to help you?
yeah, sure. So I think number one is to look at the application process as an extension of your personality. So if it's about fun, then how's the application process fun? Is it about detail? How's the application process detail? Is it about whatever it might be?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're going to attract everyone, and it's then you have to like sort of sift through it, which is never
Yeah.
my suggestion on a good use of energy. Right.
No, it's not.
No. And so, but if you're looking to, I think whether you're bringing staff members on board, which I've done plenty of times, or whether you're
Yeah.
using sort of an outsourced or VA style model, maybe
Yeah.
even working someone remotely overseas, it is even more important to get the right people on the bus, so to speak, than it is to
Yeah.
get the right clients, because
Yeah.
there are certain laws that allow you to fire a client today, but don't allow you to do that within your own team.
Yeah.
And so you need to understand that anyone you're introducing to your team, you need to give them probably more attention than the clients, because ideally you want them to help look after those clients. So the old coaching model was that as the owner would look after the team, who would look after the clients, who would look after the business, and the business looks after you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that cycle is what you're looking for. And the mistakes I made in the past were just trying to control that and
Mm.
not allowing people to shine.
Yeah.
And yeah, if
Yeah.
finding the right people is crucial, but then let them get on and do what they need to do. And if they make mistakes, then help and guide them.
Yeah, that's so hard because when we start in business, we've got to very quickly learn to wear all hats. So it's a
Yeah.
massive learning curve. And then you get comfortable with your systems and processes, and letting go is so hard, particularly if you let go of something and then it's not done the way you want it done, or it's not done to the standard that you want it done. Oh, I find that really, really
It is
difficult.
very, very difficult. And I think the biggest, well, no, there's so many different like little steps and increments in it. But I think one of the crucial ones is explaining why when you're doing the training, explaining why of a process, because that's
Yeah.
the time that you want the employee to challenge it and go, well, if that's the why, then have you considered this? Because sometimes they bring things into your business that you'd never thought of before. And
Yeah.
so it's such a good an opportunity to improve and actually use outside knowledge to improve your own business. So if you describe the why and
Mm.
say, this is why we do this, this is the process we use. If you know of a better why, then let me know. But until we do have that, this is how we're doing it.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great tip. Well, going back to that, allowing people to shine.
Yeah, well, they're part of your team. They're not like, people still call people staff, but ideally you want them to be part of your team. And to
Yeah.
be honest, some of the best people that I've used, I've had some fantastic staff members, mind you, but
Mm,
some of the best people I've used have actually been overseas, where they're in certain countries, but they're working hard to
yeah.
to help me. They're working hard to work with me
Yeah.
because they want my business to succeed because they know that the growth will come from it.
Yeah, 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 awesome. So
Yeah.
getting the right help and knowing when to outsource and definitely being willing to let go, even if there are a few mistakes on the way. What about, I'm a lifelong learner. Are you, Russell, a
Yeah,
lifelong
absolutely,
learner?
absolutely.
And so what's the importance of investing in yourself, whether it is sort of personally or professionally, to make sure that you remain relevant? What are your thoughts on that?
I think you should always be doing that. And that's why I tend to align with things that don't have a true mastery. In fact, I'm one of those, uh, what do you call it? Not controversial, but I'm against the idea that you can get mastery in a number of
Yeah,
different areas. Speaking, which we both do, I think is one of those areas where you can always become a better communicator.
absolutely.
And
Yeah,
so that's why I love it, because it
yeah.
means that no matter how old I'm going to be, no matter how far along I'm going to be, I know and I can cement in my mind to always be curious, because I will never be at the top of the game because there is no top.
Yeah, and if you're at the top, well, yeah, you stop learning. You stop having a growth mindset.
That's right. And if you think there's mastery, then I think that's a good. If you think you're in the mastery, that's a good time to actually go. Hang on a second. Have I reached the potential of all mastery? And my belief is that you can't. And that's why
Yeah,
I love the
yeah,
blacksmithing. It's the same sort of thing for me. It's a practice. It's my
mm,
meditation.
yeah,
And I think I think that's also a real cool key, which is have a thing where,
yeah,
so you've got your work and you've got your personal life, which includes family.
hmm, yeah,
What's your other thing? What's a thing that you've got that's going to help you step back and get perspective on the world, and having something that you can, I think, that helps you, something you can also improve in, is a great one. And I found blacksmithing after a big search, which included
right.
electrical engineering, and that's not a good idea to practice as a hobby with electricity, because I've blown up way too many fuse boxes.
Wow.
and so
Okay.
and so
That's
I
awesome.
found blacksmithing, which is where I can make many mistakes and correct those mistakes and get better.
Right. Yeah. My search would have been, I found improvisation
Yeah,
acting, and I love it because it still makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable. I am not so good with not knowing what I'm going to say. I'm a bit of a
yeah,
control freak. So, being standing up there, and improv has taught me a lot of things. It's taught me a lot about trust. It's taught me that when you are up on stage with three other people and a musician, they've absolutely got your back, and you've got to be okay with whatever comes out of your mouth. And
yeah.
that was a massive learning curve for me, but it's taught me so much. And now I know what I know about improv. I reckon every leader should do at least one improv workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I used to do jazz music, right? I used to play piano,
Ah,
and
yeah.
I love the improvisation of that, right? So we'll leave that there for a second. But I thought that I knew that space. Then I did stand up comedy, and I challenged myself to the point where I did the Melbourne Comedy Festival. Then I did
Yeah.
World Fringe Festival,
Wow.
um, and that taught me that it's not about speaking. In fact, stand up is nothing like speaking. It's
Yeah.
about engaging,
Timing.
right?
Yeah. And
And then so
timing.
flipping back to the jazz, what it taught me about what I didn't know about jazz was it's about engaging, right? So
Yeah.
is speaking, and so is like communication, and so there's these. I'm with you. Lifelong learning. There are so many different things that you can do in life, and little challenges that you can partake in, that will show you different aspects on the thing you thought you knew a lot about, and give you a whole new lease on life.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm a fan of the mantra, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. So
Yep.
if I find that I become comfortable with something, whatever it is, then I say to myself, okay, what can I do now that is going to make me feel uncomfortable. It just so happens that improv still falls into that category, but I continue to do it, and I crave that feeling because I know, that's what a lot of, as a public speaking coach, I know that that's what many of my clients are going through. You would find that the same, that, a lot of your clients are really out of their comfort zone. And as a coach and a mentor, you're pushing them and you're pushing them. And it's good that we know what that feeling's like as well.
Oh yeah, and funnily enough, I, I still get not just butterflies in speaking. My lead up to speaking engagements of any note start to wear on me, and so it's still a challenge even today. Now, I don't know if we've introduced me a certain way, but like the past national president of Professional Speakers Australia. Now, the way I got there was I worked with 4 colleagues. One was an accountant, one was a HR person, another guy was an IT professional. And we decided to create this tiny little mastermind, 4 people. And
Yeah.
each week we would get up in front of the 4 people and we would teach something about our area of expertise to this group.
Yeah.
Someone stuck their head in and said, "Can I join in?" And so this group started to grow, and it grew to a point where we had 60 to 80 people every single month showing up to the sharing of expertise, which I then hosted and spoke at a few times. Some people said, "Oh, you should do that professionally." And then the first time I did it professionally in front of like 200 people, I got the Charlie Browns. Now the Charlie Browns, if anyone's listened to the or watched the cartoon Charlie Brown, the teacher in it speaks like wah 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 wah, which if you're hearing that from your own voice means you're about to faint. Now, luckily, I held on. There was a lectern in front of me, which I know now I would never be in front of. But the first time I did it, I clutched onto that, and I breathed, and I breathed through it. And what I discovered is that people didn't notice the bad stuff that was going on in my own mind. What people noticed was what I talked about. And I had 20 inquiries for services that we were talking about on that stage when I got back to the office. And once I went through that process, I realized, wow, if I put myself in mental harm's way, good stuff happens. And so I started to throw myself in front of mental buses, which in my brain are ready to run me over. But then you end up, in leadership positions, and suddenly all these opportunities just come at you. But it's always been through just putting myself in slightly more uncomfortable and more comfortable positions, so that you end up, traveling the world as the head of a speaking association, knowing deep down that a bus could hit you at any point.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love to hear different people's speaking journeys, because many of us that end up as professional speakers, it wasn't a career path that we actually sought out. I often say that, I didn't find speaking, found me, and very fascinating to find out your story. And as a public speaking coach, when I work with clients, often they'll come to me and they think they want help around stagecraft or technique and tools, but really it's mindset. If you fix the mindset, then they're usually able to just get up there and do it. And
one of the greatest pieces I ever got taught from all the different communities I've been part of with the speaking piece was actually another Lisa McGuinness Smith, who
awesome lady,
said to me, "Don't speak to the audience, speak to the individuals in the audience." And by doing that, suddenly I'm just talking one-on-one, and it changed the game. So leading up to an event, I still get some of that in the back of the head. Actually stepping up on stage, I realize I'm just talking to this person and this person, and up there I'm fine.
Awesome. That's great. So last tips that you'd like to leave our listeners around energy and momentum?
I think when I say the tiny yet powerful step, what I'm talking about is, what's something that you could do in the next week that just takes an hour? Could take less than an hour, but is so powerful that if you did this one thing, it would actually move you significantly forward towards your intention. Now,
I like that. How do you find the thing?
Well, that's what a coach is really, really useful for, right? But one of the things, if you analyze it and go, all right, well, I'm going to build a website in the next week. that doesn't fit into that small time frame, then that's too big. So
Yeah.
what can you chunk down to actually get you along the way? Now, a smart person would go, all right, well, I will find someone who can build that website for me, right? So
Yeah.
leverage of time, leverage of
Yeah.
energy. And once you've decided what the thing is, diarize that time. Make an appointment with yourself,
Yeah.
who is your best client, and make sure you make that happen. So if you had your best client in a meeting, you would not break that meeting just to
Mm.
take a phone call.
Yeah.
So make the appointment in your diary with yourself to get that thing done and celebrate it in the next 7 days with something silly. Like, some people like to do a wiggly little celebration dance. Other people like to have a nice drink. Some people like to go for a walk. Whatever it might be, define
Yeah.
your celebration beforehand. And it's not even that um, it doesn't necessarily draw you towards the goal. And sometimes it can
Yeah.
actually like, oh, no, I'm going to have to do the silly little dance. But what it does is it ticks off that you completed it in your head, and
Yeah.
it allows you to not think that you're unsuccessful. So many people go through this life doing, and never actually
Yeah.
look back at the awesome stuff that they've completed and how far
Yeah.
they've come. By celebrating it, it creates a tick in their head that I've actually taken a step.
Yeah, and it
That's why I
forms
choose.
a powerful anchor as
That's
well.
correct.
One of the things that I've been doing recently, which has really been a changer, and when you mentioned you do one thing that can help you move forward in your business, I'm a fan of lists. I use sort of various tools, both manually and app wise, and
Yep.
I've got a to do list, but I've also got a not to do list. And the
Beautiful.
power of the not to do list is like, I should have discovered this earlier, because when you actually write down the things that you are not to be doing, then it holds you accountable.
Yes. And I
Mm,
think it's good to review them at least every quarter,
yeah,
because then you can actually see what are the things that are holding me back. If you can review what you've been doing across a week and just say, this was the roadblock, this was the roadblock, this is the roadblock, you'll start to see a trend. And that's part of the practice I suggest, is that you focus on the wins, but also what are the challenges. Make note of those so you
yeah,
can actually see either what you've got to stop doing or what you've got to help delegate, not
yeah,
abdicate, not just throw at somebody else, but delegate
yeah.
to someone else.
Awesome. Fabulous. Okay, let's finish up with my two questions and then I'll ask you to share how can people find out more about you.
No
So,
problem.
question one is a quote or mantra that you live by.
Uh, it's tough, actually. I did read this and I'm like, what am I going to actually
That
say?
was the only part. That's the only part of the podcast that's scripted, Russell.
Yeah, I know. But there's so many quotes that I love. In the old days, it
Yeah.
was that quote by the anonymous person that says, "You want to live your life to the fullest and slide in sideways." It was.
I like that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that quote. But really, I think when it comes to business, it's ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
It's yes, you prepare, but don't wait. Get it out there and actually have people scrutinizing it, having people talking about it, and let the
Yeah.
market help you refine it.
Yeah.
Because in marketing and in sales, that's one of the biggest things is procrastination. Is people just not taking that step forward, so
Yeah.
that they can trust that the market will help them out.
Yeah. Living on planet someday does not get you to
No,
be
no, it doesn't.
successful. Okay. And a
Living for
business
tomorrow.
book. A business book
Business
that
book. Now
has
I've
had
got
an
a heap of
impact.
business books behind me, actually, and I
Okay.
think
Which
business
one?
books. So business books are great depending on your point of time in your business life cycle, right? So
Yeah.
Ready for Aim is actually a great book,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
but
What would be
I,
one that you just kind of keep going back to that's really evergreen that you just always refer to?
E-Myth. E-Myth is the one
Oh,
I
yeah. I
always
love that
refer
one.
to because I
Yeah.
meet so many people who are struggling to run the business themselves. And I just ask them
Yeah.
the question, have you read the E-Myth? And they say, no. And well, that's because you haven't read the E-Myth yet. And then I
It,
prepare them for it.
yeah, it's fascinating. When you first read the E Myth, it's quite confronting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like
It's really.
this is what's going to happen. You're you're not a business person. You're going to have to learn how to run a business. You're going to get someone to help
Yeah.
you, and they're going to leave. That's
Yeah.
pretty much the essence of the whole thing.
It is, yeah, it's a truth from writing that little book. It is a gem, most definitely. That's awesome, Russell. Thank you. Where can people find out more about you and your services?
Yeah, absolutely. So russellpearson.com is where you can find out more about me, but feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. I've actually got a cool
Mhm.
little community there called the Future Proof Discussion Group, where we talk about what's happening in this changing environment of business. And, we catch up on a monthly basis to have a chat. So the Future Proof Discussion Group
Fabulous.
is a place you can join on Facebook if that's a place you hang out.
Great. We will put all these links and bits and pieces in the show notes. And thank you so much, Russell, for being my guest today on the Business Chat podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. It's an awesome podcast and I love what you're doing with it.
Thank you.